Welcome to LSI, welcome to the Brazilian Grand Prix round 11 out of 14. We're here for sprint qualifying, the one-shot shootout, and currently Charlie is on top, expected to be the one that goes for pole position, but can the championship leader have a go? Verth was last on the exit of turn 1 going into 2. Now they've gone back up to P3, then down to P4, switching with Igor for a lap here. Samaxon is finding pace in the final part of the sector. They're trying to give it everything. They had a little bit of a switch as they went into the corner on the exit though. Charlie's got the advantage once again, and now the final straight, using the energy up to the line. The DRS will open wide. Will Charlie hold on to this pole position? Will they start on top? No! Samaxon's gonna get there at the very end, and with the ERS used to perfection, it's the Ferrari on pole position once again. This time, it's for the sprint, and they have to do it all again later on with the short qualifying for the main race. But so far, the momentum is good. Samaxon takes pole position, Charlie in P2, and Igapro in P3. That's the rest of the grid, and we go through the race director, and we'll see you in a bit for the sprint race. That's going to be absolutely epic. Ready? Hold! Go! Who's going to get it into turn 1? Samaxon on pole on the outside line. Will Charlie get a good enough launch to send it on the inside? And they will do so. They go deep and they take P1 immediately. Very, very well started right there. Also from Nifo, who jumps ahead of Igor off the start. A brilliant job from them. Verth down at the back, but they're still with the pack. It's Igapro in P4. They've got Peanuts for company right behind, but his teammate Samaxon is in P2. After losing the lead of the Grand Prix, but only a few corners in, they need to try and find the rhythm, not let it shake them, and get back through. After all, it's Brazil. Two DRS zones that are very strategically placed to allow really, really good racing, and it means that we will be towing along with all the other drivers for quite a lot of this race. So Maxon, not feeling too confident around this circuit relative to his rival, but they are going to be incredibly quick, especially since they've just gone and got that pole position. They seem to have the ability to get the job done when it mattered most. So Maxon sitting behind his fellow countrymen as they start the second lap of the Grand Prix. It's the medium tyres for all these drivers as expected. And then we'll just go back down to the kind of timing sheet, maybe gains and losses. No, we'll just go down to the timing sheet. As you can see, Sir Max on very close to the inside, moving back to the racing line before braking, just to spot their braking point. Maybe spook and let Charlie know that they're there, and then not impede or get in the way of Nifoyan right behind. So nicely done there for Sir Max on just spotting their opportunities. Nifo, once again, another brilliant start from the Dutchman, looking to try and make their race result here in the sprint a little bit better by the end, if that's possible. You can see they're dancing with the car already through the corners. Eager Pro currently has DRS range and will get DRS. They did get DRS just a few moments ago, and they once again will get it now. Peanuts does get DRS off of Igor. Unfortunately, Tom Rob has just missed out, and it's going to be Verth who will automatically go back through. Nifo sits right behind Sir Maxon. Sir Maxon not really in a rush to overtake Charlie, so that meant that Nifo was kind of bunched up a little bit there. That's why he was so close to the back of that Ferrari. Didn't end up going for it. Will Sir Maxon now go for it into turn 4? They're a lot closer than I would expect, but they didn't bother. They backed off and let things stay as they are for now. Now, this circuit can be quite difficult on fuel. At least in past games, I know it can be difficult on fuel. Will it be difficult on fuel today? I don't know. But obviously, if you're leading, you have a little bit less, or if you have more air resistance. So if you're sat behind another car, you go a little bit slower, you have to lift off if you get too close, and you can save a lot of fuel. Charlie's not going to have that luxury, so the other cars will have the ability to kind of be a bit more relaxed. But to be honest, these guys are experienced enough. You just make sure that you have enough fuel. You don't want to worry about it too much in the race, especially at a sprint weekend where it's a little bit more chaotic. Turning off that battery, staying right behind, allowing the cars behind to bunch up once again. If it gets very close to the back of Sir Maxon, there's contact. That's going to be cause a bit of instability for Sir Maxon. Only a little bit of a loss, and they'll regain it immediately back on the DRS. But Nifo's not going to be happy with themselves either. I don't think there would be any damage from that. It would be very, very unfortunate if damage was dealt to the back of Nifo, or to the front of Nifo's car with that bit of contact. We've got Peanuts staying with the train at the moment, 8 tenths behind though. They've got to find a bit more. Verth tried their best to hold on to the DRS of Peanuts up in front, but it's not quite enough just yet. Will they be able to find a bit more of a gap? I don't know. Tom having a few issues, not able to quite hold on to the pack. There's Peanuts, championship leader in the team's championship. By the way, the Ferrari team have had an absolutely lovely time, especially in the second half of this season, and with this man being a regular point scorer, it's massively helped just to secure it. That's going to be a mistake on the exit of the penultimate, well, I say penultimate, last few corners there for Verth. It will allow Tom Rob to get immediately through. We've got a 3-wide moment, as it's going to be Charlie on the outside, Nif on the inside, and it's Sir Maxon right dead centre. Now trying to go for some maybe switching moves. Nifo goes to the inside. They'll go to the inside once more, and they're going to be on the far inside into turn 4. Charlie's surely going to have to let this one go, but somehow they've stayed P2 for now. Sir Maxon's going to use the battery to try and get into that second spot immediately, and they will do so. The inside line will be the advantage on the exit. Charlie goes off. It's Eager Pro just watching ahead. They can't do anything about it. It's a wall of drivers, and as these guys go side by side, Nifo is only getting more of an advantage. 6 tenths, 7 tenths. Would they go further? Is Nifo going to try and push a little bit more battery to break this? I don't think it's going to be possible. So Maxon recognises it and uses a little bit more power just before they turn their battery off once again. You can see Sir Maxon is getting a shimmy on with that rear end. DRS available, and that gap will close once again back down into overtaking positions. Eager Pro having a look to the inside line. It's a very open first corner. You could take multiple lines through there. You've got to make sure that you don't brake too late and end up hitting someone else. It's going to be Eager Pro challenging the Racing Bull. The Racing Bull having to be a little bit wary. The Aston Martin did eventually back off. Peanuts is holding on nicely to the back of these guys. At the moment, that was a brilliant bit of racing with these guys right there. It was Charlie going off the circuit as Sir Maxon was on the inside. I don't know if there was contact that caused Charlie to go off, or if maybe Sir Maxon, or sorry, if Charlie went off before or without any contact. Then if that's the case, and Sir Maxon hadn't closed any gap at that point, then Charlie cannot argue that, but we'd have to look on the replay, we'd have to see what it comes to later on. DRS available for Sir Maxon. They're very, very close to the back of the Mercedes car. I would assume they're going to go for the move, but there is a bit of a gap here, 2/10. Would Charlie try and have a go as well or not? I don't think so. They're just about spread out enough to not need to go for any move. There's a big loss of the rear end there for the twitchy Mercedes. DRS available for Sir Maxon, and I think he's going to be hurried along to try and make the move on the Mercedes car. Surely Charlie's not going to just let that one go. They do. They continue to relax through turn 4. Nifo just almost losing it, really trying to push the car to the limit. Lap 7 out of 12. We're over halfway now, and we've just got a little bit more to go. It's a sprint race. It's a short one for a reason. It's very energetic, and these guys aren't going to be relaxing at all right now, especially in a sprint, especially as they know that this circuit goes by very, very quickly. These lap times are pretty short. The DRS is pretty powerful, and the racing can get the better of you over time, and you can just completely blank out the laps as they go by, all of a sudden run out of time in the race to go for moves. Talking about going for moves, it's Charlie going for the inside line on Sir Maxon. They're going to go for the double here on Nifo. Nifo has to let this one happen, and Sir Maxon's also going to try and follow through to make sure that they don't lose out and sit in P3 into DRS. A sitting duck right there was the Mercedes car. Eager Pro right behind, ready to try and challenge if anything arose, but nothing is going to happen. It's Charlie once again in the lead of the Grand Prix. Your pole sitter sits in P2, and Nifo, who was just leading a few laps of the Grand Prix right there, now sits in P3. Lap 8 out of 12. Not long in this race remaining. Tom continues to have a few more issues, unfortunately. A big shame, but they've got another opportunity in the main race to get this one going. Peanut sits behind and is ready to also take some spoils if they can. Verf, unfortunately, not got anyone around them at the moment, but once again, there is a second opportunity in this race, and of course, their main focus is the LSI F 1.5 Championship tomorrow. So they're just getting some good data in at the moment. These guys are racing for the real thing, though. As we see 5 cars train along into the first corner. No overtakes will happen on lap 9. But when it gets to the next few, it may change. That's a bit of a defensive throw right there from Nifo, who didn't want Igor to get any ideas. They know that they're in a weak spot with this P3, and they have to try and do something about it. And they're actually going to be very close to the back of the Ferrari. The Ferrari goes slightly defensive, feels the need to try and do something about it to make sure the Mercedes doesn't have a go. But once again, that Mercedes just has an Aston Martin stuck right behind them and trying to put the pressure on. So really not easy for Nifo to be in this situation at the moment. They struggle to find a way through on the cars ahead with the double DRS and the cancelling out, and then they've got the Aston Martin hot on their heels, ready to do something. It can be really distracting if the car behind is moving about a lot. And now we get to lap 10 of 12. Three laps remain once we cross the line to start lap 10, and it's really crunch time around Brazil, an explosive circuit for explosive moves. It's Nifo to the outside line. It's once again 3 wide into turn 1. Surely Charlie's gonna have to back off. No, there's contact as the championship leader gets sandwiched, and Charlie is down the order and behind their rival. Peanuts is actually, in P4, and it's Sir Maxon into P3. That was never gonna work. Nifo on the outside line, blind to what everybody else is doing. They have to kind of react accordingly, it looked like. And then, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the cars were facing a slightly weird angle on the circuit. Oh, and Nifo encounters lag. Igor has to back out. They have to do, legality-wise, they can't afford to get a penalty. They're now the lead car on lap 10, and they've got 2 more to go after this one to try and make it work. Igapro fought for the win here a few seasons ago in Brazil. They almost got the job done, but unfortunately they didn't have the straight line speed up to the line. JJ took their first and only ever victory here on that day. Will they repeat it once again? Will they lose out to straight line speed, or will they get the DRS? Well, they're going for the move. Samaxon is trying to follow on as well. Nifo's trying to brake as late as he can to keep it round the outside. They're trying to do it. There's going to be Igor also having issues. The inside line is available for the Ferrari. Nifo's going to get blocked. He's going to have to try and find a way through, and he will on the outside line, and he will once again lead the Grand Prix, not really wanting to. He was happy for Igor to be there. Igor wants to find a way through it on this Ferrari. These guys are pressurizing each other a massive amount, and it's not going to make it very easy at all. I don't know who's got the most battery, but it's Peanuts to the inside line of Igapro, trying to find the best position to start this final lap. Nifo leads the way. And we go out of the main final corner. DRS available. A big loss of traction there for Nifo. And Samaxon is going to have an easy way through. Igapro so close behind. Peanuts and Charlie as well. I don't know what Nifo's going to do here, but they're going to be absolutely swarmed, trying to block a few cars. It's Peanuts trying to wrestle their way through. It's rewind into turn one once again. As the Racing Bull is trying to have a go, there's contact as Igapro will be spun round from the Mercedes, and it's the Mercedes sitting right behind Charlie. It's Samaxon somehow leading this Grand Prix. Once again, Peanuts now sits behind his teammate and looks to try and get that top three in the sprint race here. Nifo sits behind the Racing Bull, but are they going to have an opportunity up to the line? I think it's going to be a little bit too short to actually make a move. Samaxon is seeming to break away now, 7 to 8 tenths. Would they make it 9? As we see Charlie trying to push, trying to pressurize, trying to get this final move. Will Samaxon will Peanuts let this happen? Will they go for it? It's Nifo to the inside, who finds an opportunity, who's going to get the DRS off the Ferrari, and if they played it out right, they might be able to finish ahead of the Racing Bull. It's Samaxon who wins across the line. Oh, I think it's going to be Charlie. It is! Across the line, Charlie takes it for P3. Igapro settles for a P4, not what they would have wanted. Verf will come round the final few corners in P6, and Tom Robb will take 2 points in the sprint race in P7. Samaxon takes victory in an incredibly dramatic sprint race. It's Peanuts who makes it a Ferrari 1-2, and Charlie who goes from P2 to P3 in the sprint race in the end. And there was a bit of controversy there. Nifo tried their best, but they just lost it on the final straight there. The final main corner had a brilliant send to the inside line, and it looked like it was going to work, but it just missed out. It didn't work out. Now, the camera angles were all a little bit messed up, so we'll have to look at the replays, and I'm sure a few drivers will have their own POVs of whatever happened just there. But it's now on to the main race and the main qualifying session, where everything will go once again. Everything in this race for now doesn't matter. Peanuts with driver of the day after a brilliant result for Ferrari. It is Samaxon taking the win in the sprint. Peanuts in P2, Charlie in P3, Nifo, Igapro, Verf, and Tom Robb. Here are the results, and the race director is on your screen just about now. We will be back for the main qualifying session. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, we're back once again. Thank you very much for the wait. Here is qualifying, main qualifying, ready for the main Grand Prix race. We just had Igor start a lap, immediately invalidate, and is going to go on a cooldown now and wait for another opportunity. We've currently got Samax on, our pole sitter from the sprint qualifying session, on the top once again. By a small margin though, as Charlie is following very close behind. Peanuts in good form in P3 at the moment. Then the man that we're watching right now, Igor P4, Verf in P5, Tom in P6, and Nifo yet to set a lap time as they're still in the pit lane. Now looking at the man that we're watching on board with here, currently sitting in P4 in the championship after jumping Devon Young last race, looking to try and beat Zingy as well. That means that they'll be trying to get to P3 in the championship. Whether Nifo will be able to try and overtake them or not, they are going to be racing for championship position effectively. So whether they finish P3, P4, or maybe even P5 for Igor, this is what they're racing for. They start another lap, they go again. We've got Charlie who's going to come around the final few corners on their flying lap to try and set an improvement. Then we'll go on board with the championship leader, cutting it right to the inside to minimize that track distance, using all of the battery to 0.871 lap time in the end. And Samaxon will try and respond to that very shortly. Tom is going to cross the line once again, and they improve a little bit as well. Not quite enough to get a position, but they do still continue to set lap times. That's a purple middle sector for P2 right now, showing that they've gone faster than anyone in that middle sector. The final corner is coming up, pulling it once again far to the left to minimize that track distance across the line, and it's going to be a 0.878. Incredibly close stuff here in main qualifying between the two Polish drivers. Almost identical, just their cars are a little bit different with the livery. To clarify, a bit of grass there for Samaxon as they maybe drove off the circuit for a moment. And it is then Peanuts in the pit lane, Eager Pro in the pit lane as you see them go into the garage now. Verf as well. It is Nifo out on track, and this is the man that won here last time around last season. A brilliant victory for Nifo. It was a 1-2 with Nifo and Charlie in the end. And that was really a good standpoint for Nifo's championship campaign last season. Round 7 it was for Brazil. A brilliant race that was for sure. It ended up with Nifo, Charlie and Samaxon as the top 3. It could repeat itself today. We then saw Heischler and Igor. Heischler isn't here today, but Igor could try and take that spot maybe, or Peanuts could replace Heischler's spot in the kind of results if we were to replicate it. That being said, it's going to be very hard to replicate with such a competitive grid that we just saw race a few moments ago. Absolutely awesome stuff on track. Now we've got a bit of strategy thrown into it. It's going to be pretty complicated. 6 minutes on the clock, and Nifo's going to get his first lap time in on the session. P7 for now, but it will change very soon as they improve compared to the car in front. DRS, ERS and P4 there for the Dutchman, who sits just behind the second Ferrari at the moment. Couple tenths ahead of Eager Pro, who's already out on track once again, but we go on board with the Swedish driver, who is trying to show his appreciation to Dino Beganovic and maybe try and get an LSI F1 win before Beganovic even gets to Formula 1 full time. That's what he's hoping. Now Peanuts just got a 1-2 in the sprint race, finishing P2 himself. Can they try and make it one better in the main race and give it a shot for that top spot, that win that they're looking for to finish off this season? Unfortunately, they don't see an improvement in their lap time, so they go immediately back into the pit lane and they'll wait to go out again. But they still gave it a good shot. It's Nifo going around a second time. DRS and into the pit lane they will go. Eager Pro is on track once again. After that invalidation earlier on, it would have screwed up their attempt a little bit. So they have to make sure that they don't do that again. Still 5 minutes on the clock and a short track. It means that you can go in and out pretty quickly from the pit lane and still get a decent amount of laps in. One thing about this circuit, though, is that it's pretty hard to warm up the tyres in qualifying. And although you want as many people on the grid as possible, we can still have a good race with 7 people. And in qualifying, it makes it a little bit easier to find space, because Brazil can be pretty chaotic with qualifying. That is a purple middle sector for Eager Pro compared to Nifo up in front of him. The only car out on track goes across the line and will go to P3 ahead of Peanuts. That's a 0.491. A little bit ahead of Peanuts, but still a way to go to try and find the top 2 Titans that have got into the 0.6s, or sorry, the 6-second lap times. Just a recap on Igor's season so far. Winning the first race of the season, taking victory in the championship lead with him. Since then, hasn't been able to take another victory. Losing the car on track just for a moment as they're on their cooldown lap. And they'll go in and come back out for another final run. Won the first race of the season, didn't get another podium until Japan, which was the last race, which was absolutely awesome, by the way, with Frantic and Igor switching positions in the final corners, and Igor getting an absolutely masterclass overtake into the final chicane, where just a few moments before that, Sir Maxon defended from Charlie to take their 3rd victory in a row. And their 4th victory this season. Four victories this season, and Sir Maxon has taken 2 of those, with being fastest laps as well, to get maximum points. Now, currently, we see the gap 35 points in the championship, with 4 races to go, including this one. I say 35, that's not including the sprint race results that we've just gone through. Regardless of the situation, it just means that it's a tall order for Charlie, but not impossible, and they've just got to keep pushing to try and take glory. So Maxon has to keep it clean and not make any silly mistakes, and they should have a pretty smooth ride. But it's not over until it's over, and anything can happen in racing. Tom crosses the line to start their final lap. Pretty early on, but they have time in case they make a mistake to then go out again on a lap and be absolutely fine to do so. The other cars maybe not having such an easy position. That was Verth trying to overtake Eager Pro, but also trying to get out the way of Tom. Tom trying to get a bit of a tow, so all the cars are moving around a little bit. There goes the Red Bull, who goes around the outside into turns 6 and 7, and through to 8, and then into 9. And riding over those curves to minimise the track distance. Up the hill slightly, using the uphill to try and slow that car down. Light on the brakes. And then down the hill once again. Careful of that inside curve because it can be quite deceivingly slippy. And the final main 90. And up the hill for one final time. With the battery being deployed, DRS and ERS, this will be Tom's final run of the session across the line, and he invalidates as he gets a little bit too close to the wall. It would have been a 8.077, and it wouldn't have been an improvement, but not ideal to invalidate right there at that final moment. Pretty frustrating. Also going off track, which is going to be quite frustrating for the other cars around him, because all of a sudden you've got a car where there shouldn't be, and it can be quite distracting. That's Nifo very close to the inside on the exit of the final corner there, but we are actually going to go on board with Charlie, as that's a mistake there for Nifo on the exit 4. Charlie's invalidated. We go back with the Mercedes driver now and see if they can try and put it together for the rest of the lap to see if they can improve. They've only got a few tenths of a second to try and get past Peanuts, and a couple more if they want to try and get to Igor. But of course Igor and Peanuts are all on laps at the moment. We've got Verf right behind Nifo here as well. Nifo's got a few more corners to go, and then they will see their lap time come onto the timing tables. The final laps of the session. Charlie finishes with an invalidation, but a 0.871 to currently top the times. It's Nifo across the line with DRS and ERS to the line, and they're going to sit P3. Brilliant stuff. Verf crosses the line. What can they do? It's Eager Pro P4 into the pit lane. It's going to be Peanuts and Samaxon. Will Samaxon take pole position? Oh, and it's not going to be enough. They didn't improve in the end. Peanuts goes across the line as Eager Pro retires from the session. And that is qualifying done. Peanuts P5 in the end. And a bit of switching up right there. Eager Pro stays ahead of Peanuts just about. Charlie, a lucky escape despite invalidating, managed to get ahead in the end by a very small margin. That's the race director. It's Charlie on pole position, it's Samaxon in P2, and it's Nifo in P3. That's the rest of the grid. We'll be back in a minute for the main event. Here we go, one more time. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? Samaxon on the inside line. Charlie on the outside, but Samaxon will not be able to replicate what Charlie did in the sprint race. It's Nifo to the inside of the Ferrari, but they will not have a go. It's Eager Pro right behind the Mercedes driver. And we've got a very similar scenario as to what we had earlier on, but instead, Verf and Tom are off in the early corners and down the order. Damage to the Red Bull and no damage to the Sauber. but they allow the Red Bull to go through as maybe they're disappointed in what has just happened. That's not ideal at all, and unfortunately Verf goes into the wall there on their own accord. We continue with the top 5 now, who are the only cars in a train with one another, as we saw beforehand, of course. It's a long old race, so we could see Tom and Verf get back into this at a later point. Charlie leads the way, converts pole position into the lead compared to what they had to do earlier on by going P2 and then to P1 into the first corner. So Maxon didn't quite get the grip, didn't quite have the advantage to be able to go for it, even though they're on the inside line. It's Verf on the soft tyre, the only tyre to be different to everyone else at the moment. So Maxon, Nifo and Igapro follow behind your race leader, and then it is Peanuts who has to do a bit more if they do want to hold on to this DRS range. They do just about get it, and they're hoping that the pack ahead bunches up, but in these early laps when everybody's got a lot of battery, it's not going to really be that way. That's the retirement there for Tom in the early stages. He's not willing to complete the rest of the race. That is a hell of a shame, because it's not over until it's over and it's only lap 2, but it is what it is. Their race is done. Verf will get promoted an extra position and continue. 23 seconds back, but they'll give it a best shot. We'll have to look at what happened at that one, or in that incident, at a later point. Charlie is going to start lap 3 and lead everyone across the line, saving battery into the final sector to turn it on once again as they get to the straight, as they ideally want to be controlling the pace for as long as they can. If you can stay ahead for the entire race, then that's really a good position to be in. So Maxon catches up massively, but you can see they're kind of just not moving out the way, but moving aside a little bit to make sure that they didn't put any pressure on the car ahead. They just want to sit behind and be where they are. It's Peanuts who doesn't do enough to get DRS this lap. That's going to be quite frustrating. Hopefully, for their sake, the rest of the pack in front of them bunch up, because then that will be brilliant to see. 5 cars in the train all the way to the end of this Grand Prix. But at the moment, it looks like it might be 4. There's a few corners here where everybody can bunch up together, but with Charlie and Maxon being so quick at this stage of the season and everybody following along with them, it's just incredibly difficult to do anything about it. And Peanuts is trying their best, trying to do something. Even though the cars are slightly bunched up, they're still incredibly quick. These guys are not slow at all, and it's incredibly difficult to really hold on. When I say they're bunched up and, you know, you can stay in the slipstream train, you still have to manage your battery a little bit. You still have to make sure that you don't lose the car ahead. It's not as simple as I make it out sometimes. These guys do some impressive things, as we've got Igapro going to the inside line of Nifo. There's a bit of contact. I think the Mercedes driver will still stay ahead, as the Aston Martin has got to try and back out of that one as they go to turn 3, and that was a failed attack. They'll have to try and go again, despite that battle, as these guys would have probably kind of dropped back a little bit. Peanuts not getting DRS on the main straight, dropped basically half a second because of that, and then a little bit more. So a big shame for losing DRS, but it's the way it goes in the F1 game. Now, they do have more opportunities to catch back up. Anything can happen, and they also have more opportunities to do different things here, because they're on that medium tyre, but they could go early onto a hard, they could go long onto a soft. I think you can do a soft tyre around here in Sao Paulo. I may be wrong, but I believe it's possible. I'm probably very wrong, but I believe it might be possible. Now, the hard tyres are still going to be the tyre to opt for, and we're going to be seeing ourselves go to around about lap 12 to 16 before we go into the pit lane. When will that be triggered? Well, Charlie leads the way at the moment. Will Simatson try and lead the way for when we get to the pit stops later on in this race? I don't know, but for now, he stays behind, stays put, doesn't want to overtake. And they've got Nifo for company right behind them, with Igapro following closely. So far, Peanuts and Verf dropping back from the pack. Peanuts losing DRS over the first few laps, whereas Verf had a opening corner crash, unfortunately. Doesn't seem to have any visual damage, so it's just continuing out on track at the moment, and will stay where they are for now. Once again, as I said, it's not over until it's over, but more importantly for them, they're looking to get that data ready for tomorrow's race against Jericho Willis to try and do anything they can to keep their championship hopes alive. Lap 6 out of 36 is about to begin, and Sir Maxon is going to do probably exactly the same thing as they've been doing, pulling to the outside line, having to go defensive as they realise the Mercedes is going to come through, and the Mercedes is going to have the inside line into turn 2, not to turn 3, but will they get the slipstream? Charlie gives Niffo the slipstream, pulls to the right hand side. That's going to give the Mercedes a bit of an advantage, using the battery to try and have a go. Doesn't want to go to P2, so it's got to be careful with where they break, and they just about successfully hold on to the Ferrari driver. Now, I'm having a look at what just happened there. I don't think Niffo would have gone for that move if... Oh, that was a close call. If Sir Maxon didn't move across. I think Niffo was looking to the inside line and then was probably just going to stay there. Sir Maxon moved across to defend at the last moment, and Niffo was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it then. I'm going to fight you. I'm going to have a go. Why not? We're in the top 3. The DRS train is just in front of us. We can afford to fight. Let's go for it. It didn't work out for Niffo in the end, and we stay where we are. Eager Pro didn't actually gain anything from it. They lost time, in fact, in all of that. And there once again will be a defensive throw here from Sir Maxon, slightly to the inside line. Puts them offline a little bit, makes their braking point a little bit more uncertain, especially when they're so close to another car ahead. And Niffo is just maintaining that pressure very, very nicely. But once again, will not go for the move, and that was a little bit of contact right there, as there's momentum going to be lost. Eagles not willing to go for the move on Niffo, so he gives them a bit of a bump draft, and they continue on the pace. All of a sudden, Sir Maxon drops away a little bit, maybe a bit frustrated, I don't know, confused possibly, as it's always confusing if somebody else hits you, and if you think about it too much, you could start losing time. Sir Maxon's shook it off and caught back up once again. Now, the question is, does Niffo have any damage on that car? It didn't look like a heavy tap. It didn't look like a light tap either. And you really don't want to be having too many of those kind of moments of contact. Once again, that Ferrari pulls to the outside line to show that they don't want to go for the move. And Charlie will regain the racing line and continue on their way. Lap 8 out of 36. Now, looking at the body language of the car so far, it's been very consistent with Sir Maxon. They haven't wanted to go for the move. They've stayed behind, and on the start-finish straight, they've pulled to the outside line to signal that they don't want to go for it. Charlie still kind of goes slightly defensive, but doesn't really do too much more than that. Now, if Sir Maxon does want to go for the move, and they opt to put the pressure on around the outside line, then they're going to be kind of, well, they'll be able to catch Charlie off guard, because all that Charlie knows is that Sir Maxon's been pulling to the right-hand side, lap by lap, is going to do exactly the same thing, but all of a sudden they're alongside them. Would they then go for the move into turn 2 and 3, or would they just force that racing ball into an awkward line and then go for the switchback? Well, if you try and force the other car to go for an awkward line and not try and send it for the move, then you do risk being overtaken, as we are going to see that exactly happen right now, as Niffo will go into the lead of the Grand Prix. Absolutely full send. Sir Maxon tries to stick his nose in a little bit. It ends up compromising his line. It's going to allow Charlie to get a lovely run. So it's Niffo leading the charge. It's going to be Niffo going to the inside line, putting themselves in a difficult scenario. I should say middle line. It's the outside line now. The Ferrari tried to give it everything. I'm not entirely sure why they want to go for the move on Niffo and not on Sir Maxon, or not on Charlie, but they do eventually sort themselves out, and all of a sudden the pole sitter and the race leader for the last few laps, the last 9 laps effectively, ends up in P4. Verf retires in the pit lane. That's our second retirement of the race. But this race is very much not over. Lap 9 out of 36. With the train that we have now, it's going to be incredibly competitive. And Peanuts is not too far away. Maybe if something's to happen, he could get involved. Now, Niffo leads the Grand Prix. It's the inside line there for the Ferrari, a wheel bang, as these guys get incredibly close to one another. And Eager Pro will stay where they are. Oh, big mistake there for Samaxon, and Charlie's going to gain a little bit from this, but it's going to be Niffo who might want to have a go at making that move sooner rather than later. But they don't go for it. And it will allow Charlie, who lost a little bit of time just a few moments ago, to get back in on this one. So, a couple laps ago, it was about lap 8, going on to lap 9. We saw Niffo all of a sudden decide to go for the move into the first corner. Now, that was because Samaxon was backing off, as they were, but this time around, Charlie didn't have that good of a run compared to what they had done previously. It meant that Samaxon was a bit closer to the back of the Racing Bull, and it allowed Niffo to have a little bit more of a charge. They spotted the opportunity to get to P1 and they went for it, and they don't care about being stood in P1 or P2. They just want to make sure that they're in that top 2, and doing what they've done has put them in that top 2. Eager Pro goes defensive on Charlie into the first corner, just slightly, not enough to fully compromise their line, but enough to make sure that that Racing Bull doesn't get any ideas. Well placed, and still the Racing Bull doesn't have the resources to quite get through just yet. It's Niffo to the inside at turn 4 and goes for the move on the Ferrari driver, and now leads the pack. That does bunch up the pack by going for that overtake. It makes everything a little bit more difficult, a little bit more hard to calculate. And all of a sudden, you see, was that contact there with Charlie and Eager Pro? This is what happens. Everybody bunches up. Everybody tries to find out what's going on. They try and find their position on track. And then all of a sudden, bits of contact can happen, losses of control can happen, and maybe even extensions of track limits, and then you can find yourself getting penalties. That's what's going to be happening here. That's where the mind games are going to come into. Brazil was not an easy place for track limits in the first sector for sure, and that's what we're going to be watching. And that's going to be Igor, the inside line, going for exactly the same move as Niffo did, but broke a little bit earlier. Didn't end up getting it done on the Mercedes. Tries to have a go on the Ferrari, but a bit of a repeat scenario there. They have to back off. It's going to allow Charlie to come through, and Charlie's now going to try and go on the attack for the Ferrari. The Ferrari is going to try and move across, but he's still alongside him. Ow! Oh, bit of contact right there. And Charlie will have to back off. He's not going to be happy. He's just used all of his battery to get that move done. Sits in only P3 after trying to get there for P2. Bit of a loss of traction under braking as they lock the rears. But they're all good to go. And it was Eager Pro trying to have a go. And as they did a few laps ago with Niffo, they found their nose on the inside line at turn 3 not really in an optimal position, so they have to kind of back out. They saw exactly the same thing with the Ferrari. The top 2 stay as they are. Eager Pro and Charlie switch positions. Even though there's a few more cars involved in that one, that's going to be Niffo making the call to go this early into the pit lane on the medium tyre. I did not expect that, but it's done. Nobody else reacted. Are they going to continue out and go again and again and again, as we have seen Samaxon do a fair few times this season? I remember, I can't actually remember which track it was now, but Heisler and Samaxon worked together in a train as they stayed out, and it made things very, very interesting, that's for sure. Samaxon stayed out a lot in Australia, for example, but there was another race that I'm trying to think of, but I can't quite remember. Anyway, doesn't matter. Peanuts is into the pit lane as well. Niffo now out on track on their own in clean air. They don't get the benefit of the DRS. Nifo's hoping that these guys have a little bit of a fight before they get to the pit lane, but there's been no fights at all, so they've just continued on their merry way. Would they then go to the pit lane and hope that they haven't lost any time to Nifo, or are they going to assume that this is going to be the standard and continue on another lap to get another lap advantage? No, so Maxon goes into the pit lane, so does Charlie, and Eager Pro will follow in right behind to make sure everyone is on the same page. Nifo, P4 at the moment, will come around the final few corners to try and take the lead of the Grand Prix with a bit of a gap. And here's the race. Here is the race for the lead of the Grand Prix. And Nifo isn't going to have it. They're going to get ahead of the Aston Martin. Quite possibly. But no, they're not. They're going to be on warmer tyres. Eager Pro did not allow Nifo to go through. So now all of a sudden on the quicker tyre, Nifo's not going to be able to use their advantage to catch up to Charlie and Sir Maxon. And you can see all of a sudden, 1.4 seconds, that gap is broken. DRS, however, is available for Charlie. And Sir Maxon and Charlie will have an opportunity to break away here. And we'll see a repeat of Suzuka. All of a sudden, it's going to be incredibly difficult unless Nifo goes for this move on Igor. They have to go for the move, and Igor should not really fight it. They're quite far ahead. The DRS and the ERS is going to be available. I don't think Igor will fight this one. They go to the inside line as Nifo. They're going to get a slingshot. It's going to be Charlie and Sir Maxon who back up. They back up massively. They really don't push each other for it. They're just turning off the battery. So that's an interesting one. That's Eager Pro getting a time penalty in the meantime as they follow on behind Nifojan. 1.2 seconds gained once again, as it looked like there was a bit of a gain from Nifo because of that slingshot, which was brilliant. Then two tenths gained one more time, but now Nifo is still going to find that here in this middle part of the circuit. And right now, they're doing what they need to. They have the warmer tyre. They have a severe advantage on pace right now. That's absolutely incredible right there. A lap already done from Charlie, Sir Maxon and Eager Pro, but just having 2 laps to get these tyres up to temperature, absolutely awesome. Now, did that strategy work for Nifo? Not really. Unfortunately, it didn't really work, but they're still in the fight in a very similar position to the cars around them. They're not going to have really much of a disadvantage by being on 1 lap different attire. Maybe a slight percentage difference by the end of the Grand Prix, but if they can manage their tyres, they could end up even with better tyre wear. Eager Pro currently 6 tenths back on Nifo. They've got to make sure that that time penalty doesn't knock their confidence. There's a long way to go in this Grand Prix. Just over halfway of the race remaining, and it means that they have any opportunity to be in the same playing field with time penalties as everybody else around them, as anybody else can get track limits, especially at a corner like turn 8. This is turn 9, which is also very possible. Out of the 11 finishers in the Brazil race last season, we saw 8 time penalties be awarded. Well, I say 8 time penalties. 8 drivers received time penalties. We're going to see Nifo go to the outside line on Sir Maxon, and Sir Maxon has pushed Nifo off the circuit. And Nifo goes down behind Igor, is going to be incredibly frustrated. And Sir Maxon is going to find himself in a bit of an awkward position all of a sudden. It seemed a bit of an interesting moment, and Sir Maxon doing his best to try and stay behind Charlie to be in a chance of fighting for the victory to prevent Charlie from gaining anything on him in the championship. Well, he's ended up getting himself in a little bit of trouble and now not making any friends on track. You've got your championship rival in front of you, and then you've got the Mercedes, who you've just pushed off the circuit. the Aston Martin is the only one that you can work together with. And if you piss them off, then you're going to have a very hard time. And they've got to make sure that they keep clean for the rest of the Grand Prix to minimise any more issues. It's Charlie that leads the way onto lap 18 of the Grand Prix. It's Igapro who makes a mistake out of the final few corners and looking to go to the inside line is Nifo. All saving their battery, turning it off, still taking the racing line though, and catching to some Max on the head if they can. I say that, they were on an awkward line into the first corner with that DRS. A lot of speed carried. It was quite complicated, but they got through, and now they're once again behind the Ferrari driver that they tried to overtake a couple of laps ago. That is Charlie pushing the limits on the exit of 4, giving it their best shot. Massive shame for Tom and Verf. Tom hasn't DNF'd in 5 races. They once again DNF, and they did DNF in the Brazilian Grand Prix last season as well. Verf has never DNF'd in LSI F1, getting their best result in Japan, P5, but in the end, they take it to the pit lane, and that's going to be that one done. The first DNF for the Hungarian driver. And now we once again complete another lap here in Brazil. Max sits behind Charlie. Nifo tries to catch a little bit more to the cars in front, and they do so, although it looked a little bit dire. They were a bit further behind. These hard tyres don't look so easy to drive with. They look pretty slippy. The benefit is that they'll be consistent. You can try and adjust to them a little bit easier than the other tyres. They're not going to fluctuate with grip as much as the others would, where they would start to wear down a lot faster. These guys are going to have some pretty hard tyres on their car that will take them a very long distance. Now, Charlie still controlling the pace, not absolutely flying ahead of the Ferrari driver, as they've got their battery turned off to keep the red car behind. The red car doesn't seem to really want to be ahead anyway, and sits behind regardless. Nifo once again finds themselves for the 3rd lap in a row 6 tenths behind the top 2, and will gain it back into the first corner, but then loses it out elsewhere. So Maxon stays in P2, goes to 3 tenths for Nifo, and we're just going to watch and see what happens here. 4 tenths on the exit of the second corner, and then down the straight. They'll gain it back as the cars bunch up in front. On the exit of 4, goes from 3 up to 3.5, but no more than that. And I think it may have been a better lap this time around, and they're not going to lose any time that they had. There you go. That's it. That's the corner that they've been losing the time at. Turn 8 is the one. Turn 9, I should say. Turn 8, turn 9? I think it's turn 8. As they had a little bit of a struggle through that corner. And once again, it's over half a second, this time not 6 but 5 tenths instead, so made a bit of progress. It's Sir Maxon who doesn't want to go for it on the racing bull yet again, staying behind. And now everybody is incredibly close together one more time. Igapro not too far away from this battle, just up in front. And Nifo's going to be putting the pressure on the Ferrari. The Ferrari's going to have to try and make some decisions to stay in P2 in this train. Incredibly intense stuff right here, right now. And we're going to see what it looks like from Igor's POV. You can see the cars are travelling pretty fast up in front. Pushing the limits, Nifo on the exit of 11. Went into 11. Through 14. And to 15, the final corner, the final kink. flat out with DRS. No moves will be done, but Nifo is gaining a massive amount down that straight. And I think they're really thinking about the long game at this point. They've tried to go for the move earlier on. It didn't work out. The cars were a little bit wide, a little bit pushy and shovey. But no, they're going to completely take it all away. They go to the inside line. They're going to force a move. They're going to make it 3 wide once again in this Grand Prix. And they'll go to the lead. It's going to be Samaxon to the outside, now to the inside to try and stay ahead of the Racing Bull. I thought the Racing Bull would have had it. But no, Samaxon stays P2. And Charlie, again, loses more positions after all of that. Comes out on the bottom. EagerPro doesn't gain any positions overall, but Nifo leads the Grand Prix one more time. EagerPro almost going into the back of the Racing Bull, having to slam the brakes on a little bit there, locking the rears, causing them to go into ghosting moment just for a second, and then continues on their way. But now Nifo leads the Grand Prix, and Samaxon just doesn't want to seem to let it go. DRS available. ERS being used by Charlie. He'll go for that move, and it's again going to be a 3 wide moment. So Maxon's going to have to back off as they weren't far enough alongside. It's going to be side by side between the two championship rivals. Charlie goes off the circuit for a moment, almost comes back on and makes contact. That could have been catastrophic, but so far so good. Still side by side. Turn 4 is surely not going to be advantageous for the Racing Bull, but it will be. They continue to make it side by side and up the hill. The Ferrari, the inside line, worked for them earlier on. There's contact. Oh, and the championship leader this time doesn't make it work into turn 7 and 8. What a shame right there. Down to P4. Ferrari 1-2 in the sprint, and now to 4-5 at the back of the pack in the main race. Everything went to a boil, and it eventually went wrong. Earlier on, they went side by side at the very same corner, and Charlie went off. That was in the sprint race. But this time, Samaxon came out on the bottom. We'd have to look at the replay to see really what happened, if anyone's at fault, and who is at fault if so. But now we've got a top 3 battle instead of the top 4 from earlier on having the top 5. And Samaxon's going to watch these cars lead the way. Now, a few things to think about here. Whether the drivers will think about it or not, I don't know. But Nifo wants to win this Grand Prix. Charlie wants to win this Grand Prix. Eagle wants to win this Grand Prix, but they've got a time penalty. That time penalty means a lot. That means Charlie should not be fighting Samaxon too hard, because if they do fight Samaxon too hard, EagerPro and Nifo too hard, they will end up losing time. EagerPro's going to go for the move here, and they will go into P1. They're going to try and make the slipstream train work, and it massively has down that start-finish straight. Will it continue to work? I don't quite know. But effectively, EagerPro wants to stay ahead of the time penalty range of Samaxon so they can get a podium. Nifo wants to make sure that they can win the race, and Charlie has to make sure that Igor finishes ahead of Samaxon, and they try and win the race themselves to try and get the most points they can over Samaxon. If they fight just a little bit too hard, and that time penalty range ends up extending, being available for Samaxon, then Charlie doesn't gain the amount of points that he's hoping to. And that's what they're going to have to be really careful. Charlie has got a lot to think about. They really need to get this one right. Samaxon, however, is catching lap by lap, corner by corner. A man possessed after the incident that they had a couple of laps ago. They're once again going to lose out big time due to the slipstream train. We are going to see Igor go for the move, though, into the first corner pretty late on, which is an interesting tactic, and it will allow Maxon to lose less time compared to what they would have lost previously. Now the slipstream train is going to be impossible to catch down this straight into turn 4. They lose more time, but will they be able to gain it back in the middle section where DRS is not required and dirty air is major? That's what we're looking at here. 4 seconds for Maxon behind the top 3 to try and get within time penalty range of EagerPro. 3.6 seconds gaining absolutely heaps of time right now, and is 1.3 seconds away from time penalty range to EagerPro, who is currently our race leader. That's what Maxon is keeping an eye on. That's what he can see, and that's what he wants. And now the leaders continue to have their fights. EagerPro leads the way, goes to 3.6 seconds, but then it's gonna, ideally for these guys at Stend on this straight, we've got Nifo really not happy with what's going on. And I have a feeling I know why. I have a feeling that he's trying to get them to hurry up a bit. He knows that Maxon is catching, and with the laps that we've got remaining, Maxon's going to be right back in this battle if this continues the way it is. It's currently not good enough to be safe from Maxon. It's currently not helping Charlie, and they're trying to make it work, but the battling, it was incredibly close into turn 1 when we just switched over to the cameras. They fought last time around side by side into the first corner. It's just not going to work out very well if they continue, and Maxon may even be within time penalty range already. That's Charlie going for the move, and that's going to be P2 for Igor, and Charlie's now going to have to try and push a bit. Looking at the gaps to the leader, you can see 3.8 seconds. You can now see the gap between Nifo and Maxon, so it's, yeah, just a couple of tenths Maxon needs, which they've been on target to do so, and they'll be within time penalty range of EagerPro. So that opportunity there for Charlie to gain even more points in the championship is effectively gone. Now they've got to just try and make sure that they finish ahead on track and hope that Nifo also finishes directly behind them and ahead of Maxon. Maxon's got no one to please. Sorry, I should say Nifo's got no one to please, so they can just do whatever they want, take victory if that's possible, cause as much chaos as they would like to. EagerPro in exactly the same position, although they do have that time penalty, so they've got to make sure that they're smart with it, of course, and not being too reckless. ERS, EagerPro's not going to be going for that move into turn 1, I'd assume, but they will be firing it into turn 1 nice and quickly. It's Charlie who makes a mistake into turn 2. Turn 3 is going to be compromised, and DRS is going to be used. That racing ball's trying to use the battery, then all of a sudden saving, and Maxon not gaining as much, so maybe these guys have really tried to focus on getting a move on here, but it's all too late for EagerPro. He has lost that time penalty range and is now currently set in a net P4 as long as everything would finish the way it currently is. Charlie 3 tenths ahead, shouldn't have any threats, but will get Igor to the inside line to make that move to try and power through. And with the line that they had, it wasn't too bad, and they will actually gain a nice amount of speed. They won't get the DRS exactly, but they will have the momentum, and they will be able to stay ahead. Again, Nifo is trying to show that he wants to have a go. He wants to try and lead. I'd assume that's his communication here. because Samaxon is catching up massively and it's not currently working. He wants to try something different. He wants to not save DRS in the corners. There's contact there between the two, as it was just a bit of a misjudgment, it looked like. We'd have to see the replay, but everything's getting very close. We're on lap 30 out of 36. We've not got too long to go. And the Ferrari driver is in the background and almost within DRS to possibly even go for an attack. And dare I say it, a race victory in the final laps of this Grand Prix. They will have been using their tyres a little bit more compared to the cars in front, as these drivers continue on their train. And it's Nifo who's trying his best to react to the bunching up ahead. They've got to be careful, they've got to cool down, they've got to relax. They're using the battery to try and go for the attack on the Racing Bull, but instead just giving the Racing Bull a hurry along. And what the frustration is here for Nifo is that he knows that he's got a lot of battery to use. He knows that he can do something with it. All of a sudden, when he tries to go for the attack, Charlie reacts to make sure that he stays in P2. And it means that Nifo can't really afford to push on the battery even more to still try and make that move, because then he'd leave himself vulnerable. And because they're in a pack, he would leave all three of the cars vulnerable. They'll all lose time because of it. That's what he's hoping for. Charlie, Igapro, entitled to do whatever they want, and currently Charlie wants that track position because they've got a car that has a time penalty in front of them. They're going to automatically finish ahead of them anyway, as long as Igapro doesn't try and get any time penalties removed. Now, Nifo is not going to spend any time sitting behind Igapro. Igapro is going to have to let this one go, and now they do find themselves in P2 in the train and in prime position to overtake with DRS. Samaxon, 0.3 of a second now until they get that rear wing open. And looking at the trajectories, looking at what we've seen over the last few laps, it's only a matter of time. There's more contact there with the rear end of Charlie's car, as Nifo's trying to push the car, seeming to be the faster car at the moment, but not able to extract that pace. They're looking to try and take another victory, but it's Samaxon who has got a couple of corners to go, and they might be able to make this extra time, and they're within time DRS range once again. 0.8. Welcome back, Samaxon. Welcome back, Ferrari. And here we go once again for a second opportunity at the victory. Now Nifo finally gets ahead in the train. They finally make that move. But all of a sudden, Samaxon is now in the train. When they go for it, when they're in the position that you want to be in the top two in the train, and now leading the way, Samaxon is too late. He's already caught. He's already caught. It's Igapro going to the inside line to put the pressure on the Racing Bull to try and have a go. There's a little gap that he tried to find his way through, but it wasn't that big, and there's a bit of contact. Had to back off. You can see that Eagle's trying to fight for something here. So maybe that time penalty is not legitimate. Maybe they're hoping to get that one removed, and that's why they could be fighting as hard as they are wanting to fight. If not, they're still allowed to fight however they want. If it's a legitimate time penalty, it would be a bit frustrating for the cars around them, but it is what it is. It's Nifo that leads the way, beginning lap 34 of 36. It's Charlie who is in the train directly behind in prime position to overtake, but does not overtake, and Igapro's now going to have to go for the move on Charlie, at least attack Charlie here in order to do something about Samaxon behind. But Samaxon, who didn't have a compromised exit, can think about what to do, now has the inside line on the Aston Martin and are not going to go for it as they save the battery. They realise that the last few laps are coming up and they want to focus on that. But exactly that. The last few laps are coming up and they're in P4. They're not in P1. Ultimately, they only want to finish ahead of Charlie. They don't need to worry about Nifo or Igor. But currently, they have an opportunity to go for the victory, so why not try to fight? Nifo is going to lead the way as we'll begin the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. I don't know how this one's going to go. I'm going to try my best to figure it out. Charlie goes to the outside line and will take the lead on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. It's Sir Maxon swooping around the outside and will be ahead by turn 3. It's Egapro who wants to have another go, but DRS will not allow him to try. It's Peanuts go for the fastest lap in these final moments. But other than that, it's more or less equal playing field for the rest of the pack. And it's a one-lap shootout. Charlie will lead the way and control the pack. Now here is the moment that we've all been waiting for. The final shootout, the final showdown out of the entire event. Charlie has trapped position. Nifo has many opportunities to go for the overtake. Where will they do it? DRS is available. There's many cars behind attacking. Nifo is forced to go into the lead of the Grand Prix. Are they going to try and back off? There's contact. There's contact as they try to turn in. Charlie tried to hold on. DRS is available for Charlie, but Sir Maxon has the run, has the advantage, and will be getting a massive tow. It's going to be boxed in and won't have the opportunity at going on the Mercedes. It's going to be Sir Maxon who secures it over Charlie. Absolutely incredible scenes that we just seen right here. Charlie needs to find a way through on the Ferrari. It might be their final opportunity. They might not be able to get there on DRS. So will the braking zones be their friend or be their foe? Who has the advantage at this stage of the Grand Prix? Will Igor be in the mix? Sir Maxon stays behind. Nifo is going to be leading once again. And it's going to be for the final opportunity, the final attempt. They lost the victory up to the line. In the sprint race, they've got a bit of an advantage, but Sir Maxon sits right behind. The Racing Bull is going to try and follow through as well. The Ferrari goes to the inside line. Will Nifo get it? Will they take victory? For the second time in a row, they will just miss out. Nifo to P2 as Sir Maxon. The championship leader takes victory once again and gets 2 positions ahead of their rival. Charlie, P3, Igapro, P4. Absolutely incredible. A massive switch up, and a few laps ago you wouldn't have expected that result, that is for sure. The same top 3 as we saw last season, just a little bit of a different order. Peanuts will cross the line to get fastest lap of the Grand Prix and take extra points home for Ferrari. Sir Maxon has taken 4 victories in a row, 5 in the season, and although not secured the championship just yet, is on a very good path to do so, making it very difficult for all those around him. Sir Maxon takes victory in Brazil. Nifo in P2, up to the line once again, just missing out. It's Charlie in P3, Igapro in P4 with a time penalty in the end. Fastest lap, and P5 goes to Peanuts. DNFs for Verf and Tom. Tom on the opening lap. This is the session results. The race director is on your screen now, just in case we need it for later on, of course. Pretty short one around here. And that's the pit stop section. We'll be back for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Brazilian Grand Prix. That was absolutely epic. All the way up to the line we had racing, both in the sprint and the main race. Nifo, we start with you. A brilliant start once again, not quite into P1 into the first corner, but still right there, up there of course. And you won here last season. I thought you might be able to do it again. You came incredibly close, but unfortunately just missed it out on the line. You also missed out to the line in the sprint race. Can you take us through it?
Yeah, apparently I need one more horsepower to get better results. But I mean, coming into it, I thought it was going to be difficult because practice did not go to plan at all. They didn't have the pace. I think that showed in quali as well. But you know, I got myself where I needed it to be, and this track is really just like it's a bit of luck and positioning and whatever. So yeah, I think I had a good start this sprint. But yeah, I mean, after a while, like it was just everybody sitting behind, so I was like, you know what, let's just create some chaos, see what happens. Started racing people, did what I could to get myself in the best position. I think there was a moment where I thought like, okay, if I keep this the way it is, I'll probably have a good chance to win. Then I lagged back into Eagle, whole train. Basically, harmonica gets close together, and I think at that point it was pretty hard. So yeah, you get absolutely I don't know how to put it in nice ways, but I got done by like 3 cars, and then got close to Charlie in the end. But I mean, I was still happy because I mean it's a bit of luck as well into the sprint, and then yeah, the main race I think everything went fine. But yeah, same thing again. Like Max and Charlie were just a bit unwilling to. Obviously, in that case, like there's no problem in doing so. But I just thought, you know what, if this continues, I'm not getting anywhere. So I thought I'm just gonna race him, see what happens, maybe some chaos, you know, be a cockroach a bit. And yeah, some chaos was created into the pit lane. I locked my rears in the game instead of just like putting me right into the pit lane. They stopped my car fully, so I lost like a second there. So I was scared I was gonna lose the train, but still worked out in the end. I do have some problems with certain drivers maybe not understanding that turn 1 curves and there's grass. So when someone is on the outside, he needs to turn to the inside by like like 30 centimeters. And if they don't move, then they're gonna be hit. And this has happened like 6 times with I think 3 different drivers, which I think yeah is a bit unnecessary, but you know it happens, it's racing. But I hope that they do look at it and then go, right, he's not turning into me, I'm turning into him, because I've looked at all of them and it's basically all the same thing. Yeah, after the Semaxon incident, I'm yapping for way too long. After the Semaxon incident, after he spun, I was like, okay, please, like, let's overtake each other each straight, because it was third, so I couldn't do anything. But Igor and Charlie were a bit like hesitant to work together for some reason, so I was like really like urging them to go on, because if I battle them, we're gonna lose even more. They didn't want to get past each other. Semaxon catches up. Great job by him, by the way. He gets the win. I think P2 is great. Yeah, maybe the win was there with a better exit, but you know, I'm happy regardless. I think it was a fun race anyway, and I'm not in the championship in any capacity, so you know, I'll just enjoy the races while they're going on. And yeah, I think this one was enjoyable, but a bit chaotic. But that was my own fault, because I caused it.
fair enough, yeah. You say chaotic, but then also you did say you were trying to cause some chaos a little bit later on. But are you really happy with P2, or did you want it? It was so close, that win.
Obviously, I want it, but looking at the circumstances of like the pace before the race and like all the times I got hit in the turn 1, that like almost sending me into space, I think it's okay.
Well said. Well said. All right, Mexico. Whether you are there or not, is that a good circuit for you? It's pretty well, gripless, I guess.
Yeah, I think my driving style wise, it doesn't suit me at all. It takes like it's just very rear heavy, so I'll probably like slide a lot. But it is DRA, it is a DRS train, so it's a bit of both. But let's just hope we get another fun race, and then I'll be happy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Niff. A really good effort today. Thank you for the racing. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And we move on to Peanuts. Peanuts, well, pretty good sprint race result, I have to say. A 1-2 for Ferrari. Didn't quite work out in the main race, so I ask what happened there. But fast lap at the end to get some extra points for the team.
Yeah, no, the sprint race was really fun. I was just like chilling, trying to hold on to the DRS of the boys. I realized that I was running a lot. What would it be lower wings, I think, than the people around me. So I assumed everybody was on 100% ERS, but it turned out that I was the only one on 100% ERS. So I could just use that, sail around the outside. It worked out swimmingly. I don't really know what happened though with Nifojan. I'm gonna have to look back at that. But the part in the actual corner, that was an insane overtake for me and very fun. And I have to say, shout out to Simon for slowing down, giving me DRS so I could keep the P2. That was good teamwork.
Yeah, very, very good teamwork and a brilliant result. I know it's not quite the main race, but it's good to see you up there in the top 3 once again. Mexico, do you think you can go for the victory?
I mean, I think it's gonna be difficult. I mean, the only way
so
is...
yes, you can.
Here's the thing: if people make a strategy blunder like they did last time, where I went on like mediums and everybody else was on softs, and the softs just die after 1 lap, then please everybody listen to me and do that. But it's very unlikely. I think I'm gonna very much struggle around there. Unlike how it looked at the end of last race we did. But who knows? Today I just dropped that DRS and I couldn't do anything. I knew it was over and I was not locked in. I'm so tired.
Yeah, I mean, fair play if that's the case. Obviously, Brazil was incredibly difficult with the DRS trains anyway, so no one blames you for that at all. You didn't look slow at all. You looked very quick. Just didn't have the DRS, and that was the difference. So, really good pace today. Really good fastest lap at the end. Really good sprint race. It was great to see you up there once again, and hopefully it goes well next time in Mexico. Thank you.
Great race, last of the finishers.
Thank you very much, Peanuts. Well done. We move on to Samaxon, who takes their 5th victory this season and 4 in a row. Absolutely incredible. Well, a few laps before the end, I wouldn't have expected that after the incident that you had. But absolutely chaotic. You got there on the line. I'm not going to say any more because I'm going to let you go through it.
I don't know. It was an interesting race and sprint, definitely a chaotic one. I wouldn't say I expected a P1, both in the sprint. Did I win? Yeah, I did win the sprint. So both in the sprint and the race. I don't know. Today I just feel like I was positioning my car good enough, and then I wanted to try more of an aggressive approach when being in a DRS battles and everything today. So I know what I have to change for the next races, but I feel like the more aggressive approach is what I will stick to. So starting with the sprint, again doing a Lando Norris on lap 1, just losing the pole position. I don't know, it's 5th time this season. I think I never kept the P1 this season. So after 6 poles, I think no P1 after lap 1. Just continuing behind Charlie, and my strategy was to just keep trying to be in P2 if Nifo or Igor would be trying to attack me and the car in the first place. I would also try to make like a 3 wide. I knew that Charlie would probably back out because he just wasn't really that aggressive today. So that was it. Then I think I had a really similar to the situation with Charlie in the sprint. When coming in the second sector, we just had a tap, but in the race, in the main race, it happened that I just lost the car. So yeah, that was it. I mean, in the sprint I also spun because of just not expecting Nifo to be turning in that much early. And yeah, also got tapped from Charlie. I don't know, this race was just a lot of contacts, a lot of missed opportunities, but also a lot of used ones. When I got that 5-second gap to the car ahead, I tried to just get back into the train. I wasn't really expecting it, but then I saw that Nifo, Peanuts, and Charlie, I don't know which one of those three, were just slowing down really much in the second sector to probably conserve ERS. So that was my opportunity to gain and manage to be back before the last 2 or 3 laps. So had enough time to also recover some ERS for the last lap.
Yeah, it was a brilliant job, and you were there when it mattered at the very end. And of course, you say few missed opportunities, but you've got every single point except from one that goes to your teammates. So I think that's a pretty good race result and event result for the sprint. So really well done, well deserved, absolutely incredible, and it wasn't easy. It's Brazil. You're going to have some close racing. There's going to be a bit of contact, but if you can get through it, you can do well, and you showed just that. Mexico, you've won there before last season. Do you think you can take another victory and maybe take a 5th victory in a row?
No. Last season was just lack and drivers fighting a lot.
Well, I think that was maybe the first race that you did from winning from being at the back in the middle of the race at some point. Are you
Maybe.
sure? Are you sure? Because you said
I don't
that
know,
you're not feeling confident for Brazil, so Mexico, surely, if you've won there already, you can do it again.
Brazil is one of my worst tracks, and with Mexico, I don't know. The thing is, I'm still in my gaining time. I don't know how to say gaining time.
Cycle.
Cycle where just every weekend I gain some time to my old lap times, and it always changes. But the Mexico was last season in, I don't know, September, October, something like that. So a lot of my pace has changed. I have also changed my driving, and that could happen. Mexico is again a DRS track. I remember that there was also a lot of chaos last season. Chaos. Why am I saying chaos? As if chaos last season, and it will be maybe an interesting one, maybe not. I'm not sure.
Fair enough.
I can always just spin.
Well, hopefully not. Thank you very
I
much.
already did that 2 times. So.
You have done it already, yeah. That's fair to say, and you still managed to take victory. So maybe do it again, and we'll see what happens. Thank you very much, Max, and hopefully you don't spin in Mexico, but we'll see you there, and wish you all the best. And that's been it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. I don't know what I just said, but I didn't say the word interviews. We'll see you next time. We'll see you tomorrow for FP3 in qualifying for the Formula 1 Bahrain Grand Prix in 2025. We'll see you tomorrow for the F1.5 Championship at Brazil. And then in 2 weeks' time, we'll see you in Mexico. Thank you very much once again. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.